Monday began with champagne. The company sent out a mass email before sunrise, a glittering announcement about organizational restructuring and a rare opportunity for advancement. In simpler words, one promotion, one throne, and only one survivor. By 9 a.m., the entire office was electric. People who hadn't smiled in months suddenly laughed too loudly. Polite nods became sharpened knives. Loyalty became theater. Lena watched it all from her glass cubicle, her coffee untouched. She could almost feel the temperature of the room shift. Power did that. It made everyone sweat differently. Daniel emerged from his office wearing that perfect mask again. Calm, charming, unreadable. "Big day," he said, pausing by her desk. "You should apply." She didn't look up. "I thought the rumor disqualified me." He smiled thinly. "Rumors fade. Results don't." She finally met his gaze. "And what result are you hoping for?" He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Survival." Then he walked away. By noon, the whispers returned, not about scandal this time, but about strategy. Evelyn's looking for someone who can clean up the mess. Daniel's got seniority. But the board's watching him. They might go outside the circle. Every conversation felt like a chess move disguised as small talk. Lena received a calendar invite titled Performance Review, Confidential. No sender listed. Just a time, 4 p.m. in the CEO's office. Her pulse spiked. Evelyn Shaw wanted to see her. Evelyn's office was nothing like the rest of the building. While everyone else drowned in glass and chrome, hers was warm, wood books, a faint trace of jasmine in the air. The kind of space that told you power didn't need to shout. Evelyn sat by the window, city light softening the sharp lines of her face. "Lena," she said, without looking up from her tablet. "You've had quite a year." "Yes, ma'am." Evelyn gestured toward the chair across from her. "Sit." Lena obeyed, heart pounding. "You've been through turbulence," Evelyn continued. "The rumor. The audit. Daniel." Lena's throat tightened at the name. "I like survivors," Evelyn said. "They understand silence better than noise." Lena frowned. "Is this about the promotion?" Evelyn smiled, the kind of smile that meant everything and nothing. "Perhaps. Or perhaps I'm testing loyalty." "Daniel mentioned loyalty once," Lena said softly. "He used it like a weapon." Evelyn's eyes lifted, cold and precise. "That's because he doesn't understand it. Loyalty isn't obedience. It's usefulness." She stood, walking to the window. "He's burned his usefulness. The board wants him gone. But I need a clean hand to pull the trigger." Lena felt her pulse quicken. "You want me to?" "Just deliver a file," Evelyn interrupted, turning back to her. "It's already prepared. You'll hand it to the board during tomorrow's meeting. That's all." "What's in it?" Evelyn's gaze was unwavering. "Evidence of Daniel's misconduct. You'll be saving the company." Lena hesitated. "And what happens to him?" Evelyn's tone softened, almost kind. "He disappears. You move up." It was too smooth, too neat. The same kind of offer Daniel had made once, dressed in mercy, soaked in manipulation. Evelyn placed a thin black envelope on the table between them. "Think about it. Opportunities like this don't repeat." That night, Lena sat alone at her desk long after everyone had gone. The black envelope lay before her, silent and poisonous. Marcus appeared in the reflection of the glass wall behind her. "You saw her," he said quietly. Lena didn't turn. "She wants me to betray Daniel." He crossed his arms. "Then do it. He'd do the same to you." "That's not the point." "Then what is?" Lena exhaled slowly. "I'm tired of being someone else's weapon." Marcus stepped closer. "You have leverage now, the leak, the proof, and her trust. Play it right, and you could take them both down." "How?" He placed a small chip drive on her desk. "Replace the file she gave you with this one. Same format, same encryption. But this one exposes her." Lena stared at it. If she finds out. She won't. Unless you lose your nerve. She looked up at him, searching for a trace of certainty, of truth. Why are you helping me, Marcus? He hesitated, then said, because I've seen what she does to people who say no. The wind outside howled against the glass. Somewhere in the building, a printer started humming. Like the company itself was listening. At midnight, Lena stood between two folders, Evelyn's and Marcus's. Two traps disguised as choices. Her hands shook as she slipped one into her bag. Down the hall, Daniel's office light was still on. She could see him through the glass, hunched over, exhausted, human for once. She almost pitied him. Almost. Because tomorrow, one of them would fall. The next morning, the boardroom gleamed like a courtroom. The directors sat around the long glass table, their reflections merging with the skyline beyond. Evelyn presided at the head. Daniel stood opposite her, pale but defiant. Lena entered last, folder in hand. Every eye turned to her. Miss Tran, Evelyn said smoothly. You have the report? Lena nodded. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She walked to the center of the room, every step echoing. She placed the folder on the table, the one she'd chosen. Evelyn smiled faintly. Good girl. Daniel's gaze locked on hers. There was fear there, but also understanding. When the chairman opened the file, the room went silent. Pages rustled. Eyebrows rose. Someone whispered, "This implicates the CEO." Evelyn's face drained of color. Lena stood still, her voice steady. You said loyalty was usefulness, Miss Shaw. I decided to be useful, just not to you. The board members exchanged looks. Cameras flashed. The silence fractured. And for the first time, Evelyn Shaw looked powerless. The summons came at dawn. A simple email, board emergency session. 10 a.m. attendance mandatory. No signature. No explanation. Just the kind of message that rearranged everyone's breathing. Lena read it twice, her reflection staring back from the laptop screen. She hadn't slept. Not after Marcus's confession. Not after holding that flash drive all night, feeling its weight like a loaded confession pressed against her skin. By sunrise, she'd made a decision. If they built the system to measure obedience, then it was time someone tested what disobedience looked like. The boardroom was all glass and silence. 20 stories above the city, sunlight cutting sharp lines across the polished table. Every executive was already seated. Marcus was there too, standing near the wall, expression unreadable. Daniel sat opposite her, pale and composed, his eyes ringed with sleeplessness. And at the head, temporarily reinstated for consultation, was Evelyn Shaw. She looked unbreakable. Even disgrace seemed to bow before her. Let's begin, she said, voice smooth as poured steel. The door clicked shut. The air in the room was thin, charged. Lena could hear the hum of hidden recorders, the faint pulse of surveillance machines. The company didn't believe in privacy, not even for its own rulers. Evelyn clasped her hands. We're here to resolve unfinished matters. Mr. Cross, Miss Tran, you've both been subjects of concern. One of you will remain. The other will not. Daniel's voice was steady. The board needs stability. And she's the reason we lost it. Lena's laugh was soft, bitter. No, Daniel. You're the reason they built it. Evelyn raised a manicured brow. And what exactly do you mean, Ms. Tran? Lena met her gaze. You designed a company that trades loyalty for silence. You turned your employees into lab rats for a psychological experiment you called behavioral compliance. I was one of them. You measured me, controlled me, predicted every choice I'd make. Evelyn smiled faintly, as if amused by a child's tantrum. Predictability is efficiency. Don't take it personally. Daniel looked between them, confusion and panic flickering in his eyes. What is she talking about? Lena turned to him. She used you, Daniel. Just like she used me. Every file you falsified, every transaction you moved, it was part of her model. She wanted to see how far obedience could bend before it breaks. The board members shifted uneasily. Evelyn's tone remained calm, almost maternal. Ms. Tran, you're emotional. This is why women like you don't last in positions of power. Lena's lips curved into a cold smile. Then let's see how long you last without yours. She reached into her bag and placed a small device on the table. It was sleek, black, humming faintly, the flash drive Marcus had given her. I think the board deserves to hear the truth, she said. Ms. Tran, Evelyn warned, you're about to make a mistake you can't undo. I already did, Lena said quietly. The day I signed your contract. She pressed play. The room filled with sound. First, the static crackle of an old recording. Then voices, Daniel's, Evelyn's and others. Evelyn, we'll mark her as Subject 47. Transfer her brother's debt to Control Division, it'll make her compliant. Daniel, and if she resists? Evelyn, everyone resists. Until they learn it doesn't matter. Gasps broke around the table. Someone stood. Another cursed under their breath. Daniel went pale. You recorded that? Lena didn't answer. Evelyn, from the recording, fear is the most accurate indicator of loyalty. Test it long enough, and you'll know who to promote. The playback ended. Silence followed, the kind that wasn't empty, but loud with consequence. Evelyn rose slowly. Do you know what you've done? Yes, Lena said. I've given them proof. You think they'll destroy me? They built me. Evelyn's calm fractured into rage. This company doesn't punish corruption, it rewards control. That's why I didn't just record you, Lena said, eyes hard. I recorded them too. She pulled another drive from her coat pocket, a twin to the first. Emails. Memos. Board discussions about employee profiling. Everything Marcus helped me trace. It's all in here. Evelyn froze. You can't leak this, she hissed. You'll burn the whole system. Maybe that's the point. One of the board members, an older man with trembling hands, spoke first. If this gets out, we lose everything. The company, our reputation, our investors. Lena turned to him. You already lost everything. You just haven't seen the ashes yet. Evelyn's composure shattered. She lunged forward, grabbing the drive, but Daniel intercepted her, his own anger boiling over. Enough! He shouted. You ruined my career, my life. Evelyn slapped him hard across the face. The sound cracked through the room like a gunshot. Lena stepped between them. You built an empire on obedience. Now watch what happens when people stop obeying. Security burst in seconds later, drawn by the commotion. But it was too late. Lena had already uploaded the files. Every screen in the room flickered. The company logo vanished, replaced by a single line of text. Transparency begins now. Hundreds of confidential records began streaming across the monitors. Evidence of manipulation, corruption, the entire behavioral compliance network exposed to every employee, every shareholder, every partner worldwide. The board erupted into chaos. Evelyn screamed for the system to be shut down. Daniel collapsed into a chair, head in his hands. Lena stood still, watching the empire crumble. For once, she wasn't being monitored. She was seen. Marcus appeared in the doorway. Their eyes met, no words, no triumph. Just quiet understanding. He nodded once and she knew, it was done. As security moved in, Evelyn shouted, "Arrest her. She's stolen company property." Lena turned to her, calm. "You should read your own policy handbook." Evelyn blinked. "Everything an employee creates under contract," Lena said, "belongs to the company." She walked out while they screamed behind her. The hallway stretched ahead, silent and golden in the morning sun. For the first time, her steps didn't echo like fear. They sounded like freedom. It took less than 24 hours for the empire to crumble. By morning, every major business network was replaying the leaked footage. Evelyn's voice, Daniel's silence, and Lena Tran's name scrolling across the screen like an omen. Whistleblower. Insider. Hero. Traitor. The words shifted depending on who said them. But the one thing no one could deny, she had burned the company from the inside out. When Lena arrived that morning, the lobby was chaos. Security guards stood at every exit. Reporters pressed against the glass doors like vultures against a windowpane. A dozen employees were already being escorted out, boxes in their hands, eyes hollow. The company logo, once a beacon of prestige, flickered weakly on the giant LED wall before going dark for good. Inside, it smelled like cold coffee and panic. Marcus found her near the elevators. "You shouldn't be here." Lena's expression was calm, detached. "It started here. It should end here." "They're tearing through the systems," he said. "The board wants someone to blame. Evelyn's trying to spin it as your rogue operation." "Let her. She's not bluffing, Lena. She still has power. Friends in the government, investors, legal teams." "She has fear," Lena interrupted. "That's all she's ever had." By noon, the suspension notice went public. Daniel Cross, placed on indefinite leave pending investigation. The media devoured him alive. Every headline dragged his name through the mud. He didn't fight it. He simply vanished. Lena didn't feel satisfaction. Just stillness. Revenge wasn't as loud as people thought. Sometimes it whispered. That evening, she returned to her apartment. The city outside glowed gold and indifferent. Her phone buzzed, an unlisted number. "Come to the penthouse," said a familiar voice. "We need to talk." Evelyn Shaw. Lena almost laughed. "I didn't think you were the type to beg." "Begging's for the powerless," Evelyn replied. "And you know I'm not that." Click. The penthouse was dark when Lena arrived, floor-to-ceiling windows, half-empty wine glasses, the skyline pulsing like a dying heartbeat. Evelyn stood by the window, no longer immaculate. Her suit jacket was gone, her hair, slightly undone. Even her power had started to fray at the edges. "You made a mess," Evelyn said, her tone poised between admiration and hate. "Some things needed cleaning." Evelyn turned slowly. "You cost me everything." "No," Lena said softly. "You built something that couldn't survive the truth." A bitter laugh escaped Evelyn. "You think truth matters? Look outside." She gestured to the city. "By next quarter, another company will rise, another system will take my place. You exposed the disease, not the cure." Lena stayed silent. Evelyn poured 2 glasses of wine. "You're clever, ambitious. The board likes you. They want stability. They want you." "I'm not interested." Evelyn smiled faintly. "Don't lie. You didn't burn this place just to walk away." "I burned it so no one else could use it." Evelyn handed her a glass. "You can't destroy power, Lena. You can only inherit it." The words hung in the air like perfume, intoxicating, poisonous. Lena walked to the window. The city stretched before her, glittering and fragile. Somewhere below, cameras still flashed her name. "You once told me loyalty was usefulness," she said quietly. "But what happens when usefulness runs out?" Evelyn sipped her wine. "Then we find new use." Lena turned, her voice steady. "You tried that with Daniel. With me. But you forgot something." Evelyn raised a brow. "And what's that?" "I'm not your experiment anymore." She took out her phone, opened a secure file, and placed it on the table. "These are copies of everything. The full dataset of your behavioral compliance program, the names, the payments, the manipulation logs. They're already encrypted off-site. If anything happens to me, the whole thing goes public again." Evelyn's hand trembled slightly before she steadied it. "You're bluffing." Lena smiled. "You taught me never to bluff." For the first time, Evelyn looked small, just another human realizing the end had already happened long before the beginning. When Lena left, rain had started again, soft, cleansing, final. The city below didn't care who ruled its towers, it only cared that they kept burning. She walked past the building one last time. Workers were removing the company's logo from the facade. The sound of metal scraping glass echoed like the closing of a chapter. Marcus was waiting outside. His coat was wet, his face unreadable. "It's over," he said. "No," Lena replied. It started. He frowned. You could have taken it. The position, the control. Why walk away? Lena looked up at the skyline, the reflection of 1,000 offices shimmering above. Because power's just another kind of obedience. Marcus studied her for a moment, then nodded. Where will you go? She smiled faintly. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere with no cameras. As she turned to leave, Marcus called out, They'll come for you, you know. Evelyn. The board. Maybe worse. Lena paused. Let them. He hesitated. And if they win? She met his eyes, calm, defiant. Then I'll burn it all again. By the time she disappeared into the rain, the last light in the tower flickered and died. The empire was gone, but the story of the woman who destroyed it was just beginning to spread. Across the city, in corner offices and secret meetings, her name was already a legend, whispered in half fear, half awe. Lena Tran, the secretary who brought down the gods. For weeks, the city forgot her. Headlines moved on. The scandal faded beneath fresher tragedies. Another corporate collapse, another billionaire's downfall. Lena Tran became just another name in the archive of whistleblowers who burned bright and vanished. But silence, she learned, isn't the same as peace. It's just a quieter kind of tension, the kind that waits. She rented a small apartment on the edge of the city, trading glass towers for cracked walls and cheap coffee. The view was worse. The air was heavier. But for the first time, she could breathe. Every morning, she walked to a corner cafe where no one knew her name. The barista called her Anna. She liked that. A name without weight. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Some nights, her laptop would flicker awake on its own. Emails she hadn't written appeared in her drafts. And every time she powered it off, a soft ping would echo through the speakers, a heartbeat that wasn't hers. At first, she told herself it was paranoia. Trauma, maybe. But then came the message. It arrived without sender, without subject. Just a single line. You thought control could be destroyed. Her blood went cold. She knew that phrasing. Daniel Cross. The last time she saw him, he was being escorted out of the building, face gray under fluorescent light. The press had devoured him. The board had abandoned him. Evelyn had cursed his name. And yet, somehow, he was still alive in the system. Lena stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then she whispered, "Show yourself." No reply. But the next morning, her bank account logged a $10,000 transfer, sender unknown. 2 days later, Marcus found her. He looked exhausted, his tie loose, his voice quieter than she remembered. "They're saying Daniel's back," he said. Remotely. He's using ghost accounts to access the old servers. Lena's stomach dropped. "I thought the company was shut down." "It was," Marcus said. "But not the infrastructure. The architecture still exists. Finance nodes, data mirrors, offshore backups. Daniel built redundancy into everything. He's using that to move money again." "Who's letting him?" Marcus hesitated. "No one's letting him. He's inside the walls. He coded himself into the system before he fell. He's not hacking it, he is it." Lena felt her pulse quicken. "He's turning it back on." Marcus nodded grimly. "And if he regains control, he won't need Evelyn or the board. He'll own everything, from the shadows." That night, Lena opened her laptop again. Her screen blinked twice, then his face appeared. Not a live feed, not a video call. A pre-recorded message. "Hello, Lena." His voice was calm, patient, familiar. "If you're watching this, then the world believes I'm gone. But you know me better than that. You know I never leave loose ends." Her throat tightened. "You took my files. My empire. My silence. And in return, I'll take something back. Not your freedom, not your life. Just your certainty. Because control isn't about owning people. It's about making them wonder if they ever stopped being owned." The screen went black. Then a single file name appeared on her desktop, E47.zip. She clicked it open. Inside was a copy of her contract, the same one she'd signed months ago. But now, the signature line was blank. And beneath it, a new clause. Reinstatement optional. By signing, you acknowledge continuity of supervision. Her hand trembled. He was giving her a choice, or the illusion of one. By morning, the story broke. Former CFO Daniel Cross clears name, launches new consultancy, claims whistleblower files were falsified. The media ate it up. Investors flocked back. The world loved a redemption arc. Marcus called, panic in his voice. He's rewriting history. They're believing him, Lena. I know, she said. You have to do something. I did. He paused. What? She sent him a link. The folder labeled E47.zip was gone from her desktop. But in its place was a short clip, Daniel's confession, cut and edited from old recordings. I built a system that controls people through fear. I regret nothing. Because obedience is predictable. Freedom isn't. Marcus stared at the screen. You released this? She nodded. Anonymously. Let the world decide what's true. That night, Lena sat on her balcony, city lights flickering like dying stars. Her phone buzzed once, another anonymous message. Control isn't a system, Lena. It's a cycle. You broke mine. Now you're building yours. Her fingers tightened around the phone. For the first time, she wondered if he was right. Because even as she sat there, she could feel it, the pull of power, subtle and magnetic. Reporters wanted interviews. Former employees wanted leadership. The board wanted reform. Everyone wanted her to take the throne she burned. Maybe Daniel hadn't lost control. Maybe he'd just passed it on. In the distance, the skyline shimmered, towers rebuilt from ashes, identical to the ones she destroyed. For a fleeting moment, she thought she saw a light blink from one of them, in the pattern of a heartbeat. 3 flashes. Pause. 3 again. A message. Daniel's pattern. Lena exhaled slowly, the city's hum filling her ears. Maybe he was gone. Maybe he wasn't. But one thing she knew for certain, power never died. It just waited for someone new to hold it. And tonight, it was waiting for her. The city hadn't slept since Daniel's return. Screens on every corner replayed his interviews, the fallen CFO reborn as visionary consultant. He spoke with charm, precision, a humility too perfect to be real. To most, it was redemption. To Lena, it was infection. She watched from her dim apartment as his face filled the television. We all make mistakes, Daniel was saying. What matters is learning who controls whom. The reporter laughed softly. You mean like forgiveness? Daniel smiled. Something like that. The signal glitched for half a second, a pattern of 3 flashes. Lena's heartbeat matched it. Marcus arrived an hour later, coat soaked from rain. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days. You were right, he said, dropping a drive onto her desk. He's not working alone. I found Evelyn's digital signature in one of the offshore nodes. Lena stared at the small black drive. I thought she was finished. She's deeper now. Off the grid. Using the same architecture Daniel built. Lena rubbed her temples. A ghost network. Marcus nodded. We call it the Vault. A self-replicating archive that moves through corporate firewalls like smoke. It stores everything, contracts, emails, surveillance. If we find it, we prove the entire system still exists. Then we expose them. He hesitated. Expose them or expose us. Your name's on half those files. They'll paint you as the architect. Lena looked up, eyes cold. Then let them. I'd rather die honest than live rewritten. They set up in a co-working basement at the edge of the city. Cheap internet, flickering bulbs, the hum of servers borrowed from old startups. Marcus typed lines of code, his face lit blue by the screen. Lena read through encrypted logs, following digital breadcrumbs that twisted like veins. Here, Marcus said. Echelon Hub, Sector 47. Her stomach tightened. That's where it started. The monitor filled with a stream of data, names, numbers, transactions, then froze. A voice came through the speakers, distorted but unmistakable. "Daniel, you can't stop a system from learning." Marcus cursed. "He's in the feed." "Evelyn, let them look. It makes the illusion stronger." The room pulsed with static. For a moment, the screens showed them their own faces, captured by the laptop cameras. Then everything went black. Marcus slammed a fist against the table. "They're tracing us." "No," Lena said quietly. "They're watching." She unplugged the router, cut the power, and the hum of machines died. Silence. Just the sound of rain on the roof. "Every time we touch their network, it adapts," she whispered. "Like it's alive." Marcus leaned back, breathing hard. Maybe that was always the point. Create a system that doesn't need masters. "Except it still speaks with their voices," Lena said. Daniel's pride. Evelyn's precision. They turned themselves into algorithms. Hours later, they regrouped in a small diner that smelled of burnt toast and anonymity. Marcus slid a napkin toward her, covered in numbers. "These are access keys. 3 different corporations, all new, but the financial signatures match the old behavioral compliance funds. One of them is hosting a mirror server." "Where?" He pointed to a name circled twice, Vault South 47, Tokyo node. Lena exhaled. "Of course. 47 again." "You see the pattern too," he said. "Because they want me to." That night, they broke into an abandoned data center on the outskirts of the city, a husk of servers humming like ghosts. Dust glimmered under their flashlights. Marcus connected his laptop to the main line. "Once we trigger it, there's no turning back," he warned. "Every file tied to them, and to you, will hit the global net." Lena nodded. "Then we end it." He hesitated. "If we do this, Lena, you'll be hunted by both sides, the system you exposed and the world you embarrassed." She smiled faintly. "That's called freedom." The code started running. Strings of data bled across the monitors, glowing green like veins under skin. Marcus's fingers flew. "Almost there." Then a voice echoed through the speakers again. Calm, deliberate. "Daniel, you always needed an audience." Lena froze. "He's in the server." "Daniel, did you think I wouldn't leave a message? You taught me transparency." The monitor split into 2 feeds, Daniel on one, Evelyn on the other, both pre-recorded yet hauntingly alive. "Evelyn, if you release the vault, you release everyone. Every secret, every name, every transaction. The system collapses. The world follows." Marcus whispered, "She's right. Governments use this tech now. Banks. Hospitals." Lena's eyes didn't move from the screen. "So they infected everything." "Daniel, control isn't evil, Lena. It's maintenance. Without it, chaos eats order." She whispered back, "Then let it eat." Her finger hovered over enter. Marcus grabbed her wrist. "If you do this, you destroy the evidence and the proof. You erase them, but you erase yourself too." She met his eyes. Maybe that's the only way to end their experiment. He hesitated, then let go. Lena pressed the key. The servers roared alive, a sound like thunder trapped underground. Files burst open, flooding every open network. Emails, bank trails, contracts, millions of truths escaping their cages. Lights flickered. Power surged. Outside, whole districts went dark for 30 seconds, long enough for the world to change. Then silence. Smoke curled from the cables. Marcus slumped back in his chair. "It's done." Lena stared at the dark screens, her reflection fractured across them. "Not done," she murmured. "Exposed." By morning, global networks were chaos. Every hidden ledger, every black budget fund, every manipulative algorithm stood naked in public view. Governments called it a cyber attack. Corporations called it terrorism. The world called it the exposure. And somewhere within the ruins of that digital storm, a single line of code flickered before vanishing forever. Subject 47, termination complete. Lena closed her eyes. For the first time since the beginning, the system was quiet. The city went dark for 7 minutes. Long enough for chaos to bloom. Long enough for truth to escape. By the time the power returned, nothing was the same. Screens rebooted with static. Servers hissed and died. Every secret, from boardrooms to government databases, lay scattered in plain sight. They called it the exposure. And for the first time in decades, the world had no one left to lie to. Lena stood on the rooftop of the old data center, watching the horizon burn orange under the first morning light. The smell of ozone and rain filled the air. Below, emergency sirens wailed through the streets like the city's own confession. Marcus stood beside her, coat torn, hands blackened from the smoke. "You did it," he said quietly. She didn't answer. Her eyes were on the skyline, the place where the glass towers once gleamed like gods. "Did we?" she finally asked. Marcus followed her gaze. "The systems are down. The networks are bleeding. That's something." Lena shook her head. "Systems rebuild. People forget." He smiled faintly. "Then what was all this for?" Her answer was soft. To remind them they were human. Hours later, the world began to spin again. Governments issued statements. Companies called emergency conferences. News anchors read from teleprompters with trembling voices, reporting that trillions of dollars had vanished, that encrypted files exposed hidden networks stretching across continents. But Lena's name was nowhere. She'd made sure of that. The final wave of code she'd uploaded didn't just destroy the vault, it erased her. Every document, every ID, every signature tied to her contract dissolved into digital smoke. Subject 47 was gone. Marcus drove her out of the city that night. The rain had stopped, but the roads still glistened under the streetlights. He asked, "What now?" Lena looked out the window. "You should disappear too." "I'm not like you. I can't erase myself." "Then learn," she said softly. "Because they'll come looking." He glanced at her. "You really think they're gone? Evelyn? Daniel?" She smiled without looking at him. "No one like them ever dies. They just migrate." He exhaled, almost laughing. "Then what's the point?" "The point," she said, "is that for the first time, they don't own me." They reached the coast by dawn. The ocean stretched ahead, endless and gray, swallowing the sky. Lena stepped out of the car, the cold wind cutting through her hair. She walked toward the edge of the cliffs and took the small flash drive from her pocket, the last physical copy of everything. Marcus called out, "You could rebuild with that. Start again. Let something clean." She turned to him, wind in her hair, eyes calm. "Clean things don't stay clean, Marcus. They just wait to be touched." He took a step closer. "So that's it? You destroy the world and walk away?" She smiled faintly. "No. I just stopped pretending I could fix it." Then she threw the drive into the sea. It spun once in the air, a silver flash against the dawn, and vanished beneath the waves. They stood in silence. The wind howled around them, carrying the faint scent of salt and smoke. Finally, Marcus spoke. "What will you do now?" Lena's voice was distant. "I don't know. Something small. Something honest." He laughed softly. "That doesn't sound like you." She looked at him, the ghost of a smile touching her lips. "You don't know me anymore." He wanted to argue, but didn't. Instead, he watched as she turned and walked down the dirt path, leaving the car, the city, the system, everything behind. Her steps were steady. No fear. No rush. Just release. Weeks passed. Some said the whistleblower behind the exposure had died. Some said she'd fled to another country. A few whispered she was still in the city, hidden in plain sight, working under a new name in a quiet bookstore by the river. No one really knew. And that's exactly how she wanted it. Far away, in a luxury office somewhere overseas, 2 encrypted screens flickered to life. One displayed a familiar signature, E. Shaw. The other, a line of code pulsing like a heartbeat, /alive. Evelyn, she burned the vault. Daniel, and left nothing? Evelyn, not nothing. She left an idea. Daniel, Which one? Evelyn, that control can end. That's dangerous. A pause. Then Daniel's voice, cold and thoughtful. Then we start again. The screens went dark. Somewhere else, in a small coastal town, Lena woke to the sound of gulls and the smell of rain. She brewed coffee in silence, sunlight spilling through the cracked blinds. No cameras. No emails. No whispers. Just the hum of freedom, fragile, quiet, real. She sat by the window, notebook open, pen moving slowly across the page. On the first line, she wrote, "For the first time, no one is watching." And for a long time after, she just listened to the sound of her own breathing, steady, certain, alive. Epilogue. Weeks later, a package arrived at an abandoned corporate mailbox once registered to Echelon Holdings. No return address. No name. Inside, a single flash drive. When inserted, it displayed one sentence on an empty black screen. "You built the system. I learned from it. LT." And beneath it, a single blinking cursor, waiting for the world to answer back. Fade to black.